Hi friends, welcome to the Plain Fun RC channel, and I'm your host Saul, and we are continuing with the build of the AMTN Burt Rutan Beechcraft Starship. We're focusing on sheeting the plane, and I want to talk to you about technique, if you will. Now, in the manual, it does talk about using 50 millimeter wide sheets of 1.5 millimeter balsa, which comes with the actual kit. Now, I have nothing against that. That's fine. But I find that when you use wider sheets, the overall finish can wind up looking boxy. Now, it does say to use water to help bend the sheets, but there's an easier way. I'll take a balsa stripper, which you can see here, and it's available from Master Air Screw. And it's fully adjustable just by turning this wheel, and it's got a little number 11 X-Acto blade on the side. And you can adjust the width of the strips of balsa it cuts by simply turning the wheel, and you get the proper width. Now, what I like to do is I'll take a popsicle stick, and I'll use that as my guide. And once I turn the wheel on the side to where it's as wide as a popsicle stick, I'll then go ahead and cut a strip right off the 1.5 millimeter sheet. And you can see we have one here. And then it simply just gets glued in place with some CA glue. Now, as you get to the tighter curves, you can actually make your strips even less wide, or less wide, if you will. And that allows you to go ahead and to easily navigate tighter curves. And then the finish is that much better. Now, don't worry if they feel a little uneven. Not a big deal. We're going to use some balsa wood filler when we're done, and that gives it even a nicer finish once you're done. So let's go ahead. Let's continue with sheeting our plane, and more to come. All right, friends. As we continue our update, you can see we've got the nose of the plane sheeted. This plane probably has the most compound curves of any aircraft I've ever built, and I had to try a couple different techniques because once you get past the center section, you've got compound curves going, as you can see from the front, coming this way, going this way, and coming down as well. And you also have to account for the airfoil in the canard as well. So the problem was, while the 1/4-inch pieces do work fine, it's when you start getting closer to the canard and down, and here's where it begins to become a problem. So I tried something whereby I went ahead and I used 1/8 inch pieces. It may not look real neat right now, and that's okay, because once we get some filler in there, it's going to fill in really nice. But it worked really well. What it allowed me to do is to get a nice curve going over top of the canard, and they also didn't crack when you went to bend them, and I didn't need to use any water. Now, the reason why you want a nice tight fit in here, not only on top of the canard, but up against the fuselage, you got to account for the elevator. You don't want the sides of the fuselage bowing out. The wood needs to be directly up against the stringers, because when the elevator moves up like this, you want to make sure it's not running into the fuselage. So with that, we've gone ahead, we've got that sheeted. We're now going to shift our focus to the rear portion of the fuselage, and then of course, we'll then at that point flip it over and do the bottom. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, we are sheeting the aft portion of the fuselage. Let me show you my technique for sheeting. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see we've got the left side of the fuselage sheeted. We've got a couple smaller areas down in here and up front, which will need to be completed, but they need to be finished when the airplane is turned upside down. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to work on the right side, get that done, and then we'll flip the plane over and put on our formers. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update with the sheeting, you can see we've got our right side finished, and she looks great. So very happy about that. That's done. We're going to go ahead now, and we are going to cut out some foam cradles so we can flip the plane over to go ahead and put on the bottom formers. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see we've got our bottom formers in place on the bottom of F1, and very straightforward. There's already pre-made notches in F1 to put them on there, so no complications. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and start adding our stringers to the various openings going all the way back. You'll notice there's a gap here in F 8A. That's because that's the space required for the retractable nose gear. Now, on the bottom of the plane, I want to show you something. You can see there's one of the cradles, the foam cradles. I just took some scrap foam and hot wired an opening so the fuselage sits nicely in the foam cradle, and you can see there's one in the rear. Keep the cradles, don't throw them away when you're done with the plane. You're going to need them when you go to the field. So if you have to turn the plane upside down, you've got something to rest it on without the fuselage being damaged. If you're very talented, you might be able to get some nice big blocks, connect the blocks with some PVC tubes, and have a really nice cradle that you can take with you and use it anywhere you need to. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see that we have our stringers in place. A couple tips I want to pass along to you. The center stringer here starts on the very front former and then goes here and stops at F7A, and then it picks up from F9A all the way to the back of the fuselage. The reason for that is this open area in here is where the retract is going to be sitting, so don't put any stringers in here. And it also doesn't say this in the instruction manual, don't sheet this center area. Okay, keep that in mind. That's got to be open until the retract is installed. Now, let's give you some other tips back in here. A couple things. The stringer that runs along the side right here, that's going to stop just a little bit past F15B. There is a stringer that was supposed to run from here all the way back to here. I made the mistake of stopping it here because I thought that was the case because I did not see this other slot. So just keep in mind that this stringer needs to run all the way back. Also, finally, you have the stringers here just to the sides of the center stringer. They stop about 10 millimeters from the end of F2. So just keep that in mind. And of course, glue them in, as you can see how we have them glued in on the actual fuselage. All right, we're going to go ahead now and begin our process of sheeting the bottom. And we're going to use the same techniques that we used for the top. One thing I am going to do differently, though, after having sheeted the top, and the instructions do show this, start along the surface of the wing, okay, and go to the center. In the top, I'd gone from the center down. That was a bad idea. I should have gone from the wing up to the center. That's what you want to do. All right? All right, friends. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see the bottom left of the fuselage is fully sheeted, which is great. Came out really well. Very happy with everything. Nothing important to point out, except just one important thing. This area over here is where the retract is going to be placed. So the important thing to remember is that when you're going through and you're putting on the pieces, give yourself a little space. You can see there's a piece here, and this is one of the stringers. Give yourself some space, not only on the stringers, but also here on the actual former itself, because what's going to happen is once you're done going through and done sheeting, and you've installed the landing gear, you're going to have to wind up sheeting this area with a separate piece and then cutting out an opening for the retract itself. So it's important to make sure you've got a little bit of space along the stringers and the formers for the balsa sheeting to grab hold of. All right, friends, we're going to go ahead and shift our focus to the bottom right side, and more to come. All right, friends, as you can see, the sheeting of the bottom of the plane is done. Yay! Only took a couple weeks. Anyway, she looks great. Very happy with it. Just even happier to be done with the sheeting. So we got a couple things we need to do. One of the first things we've got to do is we need to go ahead and take our wonderful Deluxe Model Lite lightweight filler. And this stuff is very light, by the way. Even the jar is light. And we've got to go ahead and fill in some of our dips and some of our rises, things of that nature, get everything nice and smooth, do a bunch of sanding to get all that looking great. Once we're done with that, then we're going to go ahead, we need to get a couple blocks of wood together, do our nose cone, and then back here, we need to go ahead and shape our tail back in here with a couple extra blocks of wood so we can finish that up. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and start focusing on our retracts and a couple other things. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, we've gone ahead and started putting on our filler. We went ahead and sanded already. I wound up having to use a disc sander. You can see it there in the distance because it's just a large area. But I put a 320 grit on there, and that was perfect because of the speed at which the disc sander spins. It worked really well. So now we're just kind of focusing on filling in any dips and valleys, if you will, that the sander really couldn't take care of. And if I'd sanded too much, it would have just thinned the wood out too much. So, you know, a lot in some places, a little in others. And we're just kind of starting right now with the bottom right side. And going to let that dry. Then we'll sand that. Then we'll go ahead and flip it over and do the other side. All right, friends. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue update, you can see the Starship is now upright. We went ahead, we filled in the bottom, did our sanding, and it was fantastic. Now we're going to go ahead and focus on the top portion. Some friendly tips to keep in mind. You want to go ahead and be methodical about putting on your filler. Start in the front and just take your time. One of the best ways you can tell where to put filler, and use your hand. Run your hand over it. If you're feeling any high points between the pieces of balsa or any low points, that's an area you want to go ahead and run some and put some filler in. Great example is this right here. And if I come back here, here's a nice one back here as well. So those are some good examples. Even the spacing between two pieces of wood is also important. Now, you can pick up these little plastic knives or spreaders, not plastic knives, spreader you can find on Amazon, a couple dollars. You get a pack of like 10. When you put it on, instead of going like this, which you feel like would be the tendency, don't do that. Actually take it, if you will, and run it so it goes like this. And that works a lot better. You'll find it fills in better. Now, you're not going to get a perfect fill the first time. That's okay. When you go back and you sand, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take your hand, you're going to run it over the area. And of course, once again, if you still feel a high point or low point, a little filler will do the trick. Now, the Model Lite balsa filler comes in a good consistency when you get it. But I like mine to be the consistency roughly right around about toothpaste. So just a small amount of water is all you need. Mix it up really good with a good old popsicle stick. And even if you make it a little too moist by accident, don't sweat it. It dries quickly. It really does. If you put it in a little heavier in some spots, you have to wait a little longer. I like to wait overnight. I find it adheres better if you wait overnight. But nonetheless, a simple popsicle stick also is a great way just to initially put it on, and then using the spreader allows you to go ahead and get it so it's nice and smooth. All right, friends, let's go ahead and focus on getting our top done, and more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see we've got our filler all over the top of the fuselage. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna do some sanding, get that nice and smoothed out. I'm gonna try a little time lapse and see how this works. Bring you in with me so you can see the work that goes into building a plane of this size. All right, friends, let's get sanding. All right, friends, as you can see, we've gone ahead, we've done our sanding. She looks fantastic. A couple areas that you still need some filling in that I discovered, such as here. But no big deal. That's all part of it. You just go back in, you do little touch-ups here and there with some filler. All right, so we're at the point now where we need to go ahead and begin the process of getting our hatch together, which is the section right in here. And then, of course, we'll be putting on our canopy as well. So let's go ahead and get on with that. More to come.